نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. بعد we continue from the book of Shaykh أصول السنة by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, matters of i'tiqad, matters of belief, the belief of the people of Ahl Sunnah, something that we need to have in our hearts as the belief, and our actions would be accordingly. And we are in the chapter where he talks about the i'tiqad, or matters of belief, of the Imam of this deen, the Imam of Ahl Sunnah. Last time we talked about the i'tiqad of Sufyan ibn Uyayna rahimahullah. And inshallah ta'ala tonight we'll start, because it's going to be take more than one time, inshallah ta'ala, the i'tiqad, or the belief of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, which basically Usool Alsunnah, that is famous, and it's part of the chapter here, all of what is mentioned in the small book of Usool Alsunnah, which is basically his i'tiqad. As we said before, the early generations of Islam, when the deviation occurred, when people deviated from the way of the Prophet ﷺ, they had to write matters of belief. They had to have it all at one time to be presented, meaning that they won't be asked, or they won't wait to be asked, what is your belief in this, what is your belief in this? No, it will be enough for someone to ask them, what is your belief? Then they would say all the matters of belief from the beginning to the end, especially the ones that the Ummah split with regards to. And this is what we mentioned before, when Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah and others, when he mentioned his matters of i'tiqad, he didn't talk about all the pillars of al-Iman. He only mentioned the things that the Ummah split in matters of belief, whether it's in matters of al-Qadr, or the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and so on. So they used to say it, and that's why it's a good thing for us that a person will be ready to answer a question, what is your belief? Then you get your matters of belief from the beginning to the end memorized. And it's important also to use the words of the people of knowledge, because this is deen. So that a person does not talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge, that would say evil things. So Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, from the chain of narration all the way to his son and him, he said, أصول السنة عندنا التمسك بما كان عليه أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والاقتداء بهم وترك البدع وكل بدعة فهي ضلالة وترك الخصومات والجلوس مع أصحاب الأهواء وترك المراء والجدال والخصومات في الدين. Again, it's one of the longest mentioned here in this section. But he says Usool Alsunnah, the principles of a Sunnah. And a Sunnah here refers to matters of belief. Because the word Sunnah can mean matters of belief, can mean matters of what is recommended, can mean the whole entire deen. It depends who's saying it, and it depends on the context or the siyaq of what the words are being mentioned. So the foundation of the Sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ, again we'll do it briefly inshallah, so that we don't, if we explain it and give it its rights, it will take a long time, inshallah ta'ala. So, التمسك بما كان عليه أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. التمسك, to hold fast to what the companion of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم were on. And you see again the significance why he mentioned the ashab, or the sahaba of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, because the ummah split with regards to this. So he had to mention here that to hold fast to what the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on, and that's what makes the people of Ahl Sunnah unique and separated from the people of innovations of the deen. وَالْإِقْتِدَاءُ بِهِمْ, and to follow them. وَتَرْكُ الْبِدَعِ, and to leave and to abandon al-bid'ah, or innovations in the deen. As we said before, this is always the way. By now you get to know the ways of the people of knowledge when they speak about any matter, one of which is of Aqidah, and this is the way of the Quran. They say what we're ordered to do and the opposite of it, so that the matter is perfect and complete. If you just know what you're supposed to do without what we are forbidden from, this is deficient, makes the person might fall into matters of deviations and sin. So as they order to be hold fasting or to hold fast to the Sunnah, also forbidding us from doing the opposite of this, which is al-bid'ah. Sunnah, the opposite of it is the bid'ah. The tawheed, the opposite of it is the shirk. 4 things that is mandatory for the Muslim to know. 2 things that we're supposed to do, and 2 things we're supposed to avoid. And this is from La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Makes the religion easy for us to follow when we know these foundations. Tawheed, the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the opposite of that is the shirk, associating partners with Allah, with all the details of both. The Sunnah, to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, and if not, the person would fall into the bid'ah or the innovations of the deen. And we need to know the definitions of it. And it's anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not order us to do in matters of the religion. In matters of the religion. وَكُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ فَهِيَ ضَلَالَةٌ. Every bid'ah, no exception. كُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ فَهِيَ ضَلَالَةٌ. And this is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. So there is no such a thing as a good bid'ah or a bad bid'ah. In the religion, or in the religious meaning, the istilah al-shar'i, in the religious terminology. But linguistically, yes, you can say there is a good bid'ah and there is a bad bid'ah, linguistically. And this is what Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu said when he saw the people gathered behind one Imam in Ramadan. He said, نِعْمَةُ الْبِدْعَةِ هَذِهِ, which, what a good bid'ah there is. He did not mean the bid'ah in matters of the deen, but linguistically, because they were at the time of the Prophet ﷺ would pray in jama'at, not in jama'ah wahid, not in one jama'ah. But religiously, when we say religiously, meaning from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, anything that a person innovates, anything in matters of the deen, then فَهِيَ ضَلَالَةٌ, even if it sounds or it looks or it tastes okay. فَهِيَ ضَلَالَةٌ, that means it's astray, it's deviation. And after that says وَتَرْكُ الْخُصُومَاتِ, to stay away from disputes. Disputes with who? With the people of bid'ah, people of innovations. And this is something that the early generations of Islam also always stressed. And what it means is, it means that you have the truth, you believe in it, you know it, you convey it to others, you call people to the truth. And the truth that a person has is what? Is not based on one's opinion, it's based on a nusus or the text or the wahy, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is something that there's no differences of opinions in. So if that's presented, and people oppose these qat'iyyat, these usool, these foundations, with their own thinking, their own opinions, other things, right? Then there's no point of dispute here. What are you going to oppose this with? You already said the text, the wahy. You're going to oppose the wahy with opinions, then you're going to answer with opinions, then you become into that level. So the wahy is enough. If a person does not have the understanding, then you explain it, yes. So debate with people to reach the truth, this is something else. But the quarrelsome and the disputes and so on and going back and forth, this is something that they used to forbid. وَالْجُلُوسِ مَعَ أَصْحَابِ الْأَهْوَاءِ, and to sit with the people of the desires. أصحاب الأهواء. Literally this is what it means, the people of desires, those who follow their desires. Who are the people of desires that the Bisa they meant? This is also an important ضابط or important criteria to understand who are the peoples of al-ahwa. These are the people that differ from the people of Ahl Sunnah by one of their principles, matters of principles, or a principle or more, foundation of the deen. Not a matter of ijtihad, for example, or something that it's valid for people to have differences of opinions. Even if some of the ai they have an opinion different in matters of aqidah, right? But is as a result of their ijtihad, right? So the people of al-ahwa are those who would differ in matters of usool or foundation of the deen, one or more. And that's why in the early generations of Islam, as the wordings of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah and others, they would always mention these people are the Khawarij, the Qadariyya, the Murji'ah, the Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah. These are the foundation, these are the heads of the people of al-ahwa, or the people of innovations in matters of the deen. Or also another ضابط, another criteria that the early generations of Islam they mentioned, those who would differ, whose foundation, and something that is ishtuhira, which means that the matter has been well known, that this is the truth. Somebody comes and do it differently, deviate in matters of foundation of the deen, than they are from the people of al-ahwa or the people of innovations of the deen. So it's not the person that would necessarily commit or fall into a bid'ah. So not everybody that do a bid'ah, he becomes from the people of a bid'ah. Not everybody that would follow his desire to do something wrong, he becomes from ashab al-ahwa. Right? We have to be careful with this, because this is with regards to those who differentiate or separate themselves from the people of Ahl Sunnah by the foundation of matters of the deen. And of course the people of knowledge are the ones to be referred to with these matters. It's not for each and every one of us to make that decision or to accuse others or to point fingers. It's something that we have to learn, of course, and to ask the people of knowledge with specifics. وَتَرْكْ الْمِرَاء وَالْجِدَالِ, and to stay away from arguing and basically arguing in a way that nobody is seeking the truth. It's just each one is trying to gain his own victory. But as long as the person is explaining the truth and he can go back and forth till the matter is clear, then that's it. There's no means or there's no benefit of continuing with matters of debating and arguing and so on. وَالْخُصُومَاتْ فِي الدِّينِ, and again he says وَالْخُصُومَاتْ فِي الدِّينِ, the quarrelsome or the disputes in matters of the deen. The deen should bring goodness and togetherness, not disputes. So if there's dispute between people, right, it's not because of the deen. It's because the ahwa, the desires, right? It's a rule, it's a principle in our deen. The deen would never bring dispute, right? Never. So someone says, how come Muslimin are in disputes and groups and all kinds of things? It's because of the desires. The deen would bring people together, not would make people dispute with one another. Those who would dispute are those who would follow their desires. But the deen is supposed to be, if people are on the deen, then their hearts will be together by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the ayat of the Quran says this. So the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are the people of Sunnah and Al Jama'ah. That means they are together and on the Sunnah. So always, every time we see a dispute, it's because the desires are not the deen. So that means we stay away from the disputes in matters of the deen. The deen is not the place of disputes. The deen is wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be explained and to be applied, and not to be a subject of dispute. And again, this is briefly. وَالسُّنَّةُ عِنْدَنَا آثَارُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. And the reason why also we're saying this briefly, because we are following the book. If the only book that we're studying is this only, maybe then we can go into details. But since this is part of what's before and what's after, so all of these things will be also explained in details, inshallah ta'ala. وَالسُّنَّةُ عِنْدَنَا, the sunnah to us, defining the sunnah, آثَارُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. Athar means, athar is what you leave behind. So what the Prophet ﷺ left. What did the Prophet ﷺ leave for us? The deen of Islam, the wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, his speech, his actions, the things that he approved of ﷺ. Then he says, وَالسُّنَّةُ تُفَسِّرُ الْقُرْآنِ. Sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ, تُفَسِّرُ الْقُرْآنِ, explains the Quran. وَهِيَ دَلَائِلُ الْقُرْآنِ, and it's the evidences of the Quran. Quran alone is only half of the wahy. The other half is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we discussed that many times before, that whoever just take the Quran and that's it, this is outside the fold of Islam. It's a person a disbeliever. So Shatr al-Wahy, half of the Wahy is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Sunnah explains the Quran, and also the Sunnah doesn't mean that he denied that the Sunnah brings new rulings that is not present in the Quran. It does. The Sunnah has some rulings that you won't ever find it in the Quran. But in general, it explains what has been mentioned in general in the Quran, and it's the evidences of the Quran. And that's why he, rahimahullah, and others, they said that the Sunnah qadi' al-Quran, that the Sunnah would make the evidence of the Quran clear. Meaning that if there's a dispute, or there is more than one understanding to a verse in the Quran, what would make the judgment is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So although the word qadiyya is a heavy word, but that's what it means. Right? The Sunnah is the thing that would make the opinion or the matter clear with the Quran. And then he says, وَلَيْسَ فِي السُنَّةِ قِيَاسٌ وَلَا تُضْرَبُ لَهَا الْأَمْثَالِ وَلَا تُدْرَكُ بِالْعُقُولِ وَلَا الْأَهْوَاءِ إِنَّمَا هِيَ الاتباع وَتَرْكُ الْهَوَى. لَيْسَ فِي السُنَّةِ قِيَاسٌ. There is no in the Sunnah qiyas or analogy. He does not, rahimahullah, deny al-qiyas totally. Al-qiyas, when it's mentioned in the subject of Usool fiqh, with its proper criteria and principles, this is something that the ulama, they take. But what he means is, here, if the Sunnah is there, there's no qiyas. If the Sunnah is clear, if there's something in the Sunnah about a matter, then the qiyas is not valid. The analogy is not valid. And the analogy of the qiyas is when you have an incident and you try to find a ruling for it, so you would use a similar incident at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that the ruling of it was clear, and you make the analogy and you give the verdict. When would the ulama do this? When the matter has no evidence in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then they would use the qiyas. But what he means here, the Sunnah has no qiyas. The Sunnah is wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you don't put forward what your analogy is or what anything is. If the Sunnah is clear, if the hadith is sound, then this is what needs to be followed, and not the qiyas, which needs, of course, the intellect of the people and the people of knowledge and so on. وَلَا تُضْرَبُ لَهَا الْأَمْثَالِ. You don't set a parable and then you apply it on the Sunnah. The Sunnah is the thing that is the foundation, that anything else is to be understood and judged by the Sunnah, right? And meaning that if in the life of some people they have some principles in their life, right? Any civilization, they have their own statements and their own wisdom, words of wisdom or things of that nature, right? So a person bringing one of these statements or a statement of wisdom from somebody, a great philosopher or whatever, people like it so much. So he would make this as the foundation and then look into the Sunnah or the Prophet ﷺ, what would support it, right? No, it's the other way around, of course, right? It's the Sunnah that the words of the people need to be judged according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, not vice versa. And also, وَلَا تُدْرَكُ بِالْعُقُولِ وَالْأَهْوَاءِ. The Sunnah is not to be comprehended with one's intellect or with desires. Meaning, we use our intellect to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. But for a person to think that if his own intelligence tell him something and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ would say the opposite of it, the truth is in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and he should accuse his own intellect. Why? Because this is wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as it mentioned before, then why do the people then need the wahi? If they already can figure it out with their own intelligence, the wahi comes and it becomes, of course, before anyone's intellect or any opinions or any desires whatsoever. And that's why he says, إِنَّمَا هِيَ الاتباع وترك الهوى. It is nothing but to follow and to stay away from the desires. So it's either or. Always they talk about al-ittiba' versus al-hawa or desires. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّمَا يَتَّبِعُونَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. If they don't respond to you, O Prophet of Allah, then know that they are following their desires. This is what the Quran says. So it's either or. Either the person will be a follower, or he will be a follower of his desires. Human beings, they have to follow. Either they follow the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, or they follow their desires. And their desires can sound and look very nice to them, and can even bring great benefits to the deen according to what they think. Many people embrace Islam as a result of that desire that they followed, right? So they would take this as an evidence that what they did is good, right? And as we mentioned before, if you know for sure with certainty that if you compromise one order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something very small, and as a result of that the whole earth will become Muslims, you don't say, well, the benefit is great, so let's just leave this aside or commit this sin so that people would embrace Islam. It is not permissible whatsoever. Guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are ordered to be steadfast yourself on the truth, and you convey the truth the way it is, without compromising anything in it. But once people, they put their own desires and intelligence in matters of the deen, and that's what the danger is. If they follow their desires in committing sins, they know that they're committing sins, right? And it's haram and they need to stay away from it. But once they use it in matters of the deen, and they would propagate the deen using it, or changing something in the deen based on their thinking and so on. This is what changes in matters of the deen, which is the worst, one of the worst evil actions whatsoever. So either al-ittiba' or a person would follow the hawa or the desires. Then he talks about the specific things in the Sunnah, which is matters of belief. وَمِنَ السُنَّةِ اللَّازِمَةِ الَّتِي مَنْ تَرَكَ مِنْهَا خَصْلًا لَمْ يَقُلْهَا وَيُؤْمِنْ بِهَا لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. From the Sunnah, al-lazima, the mandatory one, that whoever leave one part of it, he did not say it and did not believe in it, he is not from its people. So whoever is not following and adopting what's coming from the principles of the people of Ahl Sunnah, that he's not from the people of Ahl Sunnah, even if he call himself such a way. What are these things? The first thing he mentioned, al-imanu bil-qadari khayri wa sharri. To believe in the qadar, it's good and it's evil. And forgive me if we're repeating this again because it was mentioned before, but briefly, al-qadar, what is the meaning of khayri wa sharri? It's good and it's evil. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed is good. It depends on the outcome of it. There is no pure evil that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees. The evil that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for a reason, the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that the ultimate good will appear from the believers. Right? So shaitan is evil, but without shaitan, the believers would not elevate themselves in the high levels of matters of iman. Without calamities, without anything that is even the work of the disbelievers and so on and so forth on earth, as a result of that, many acts of worship is established, the act of worship of patience, struggle, being, and so on. This is all good. And that's why khayri wa sharri is with regards to the human being and how they see things and perceive things. So to believe that everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no exception. The believers and the disbelievers and the actions of both, and any calamity and any evil thing and the good things and the Jannah and the Nar and everything. وَالتَّصْدِيقُ بِالْأَحَادِيثِ فِي, and to believe in the ahadith in it. And as we said, the principles or the maratib or the levels of the belief of al-qadar, 4. What are they? Al-ilm, right, the knowledge, al-kitaba, the writing, that everything is written and so on, and al-mashi'a, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and al-khalq, or everything is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the 4 levels of al-iman bil-qadar. وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهَا لَا يُقَالُ لِمَا, to believe in it and not to say why. وَلَا كَيْفْ, and do not say how. إِنَّمَا هُوَ التَّصْدِيقُ بِهَا وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهَا. Nothing but a tasdeeq, to believe, and to believe that this is the truth and that's it. Because again, the human beings, it's over their comprehension, they cannot comprehend this. And it's the last pillar of al-iman, because if they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His names and attributes, then they would believe in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one... You don't say why? Other 4. Al-ilm, knowledge. The knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses everything. Al-kitaba, everything is written. Number 3 is al-mashi'a, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses the will of the human beings. And number 4 is al-khalq, everything is created. These are the 4 levels of al-iman bil-qadr. One quick example that the ulama they mentioned also, that sometimes it settles many of the things that people are exposed to with all these matters of thinking that is not according to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Why people fall into these deviations with matters of the qadar, with the names and attributes of Allah, and they deny some of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or distort its meaning. It's because really they don't have this separation between the creator and the creation of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it's known, He is Ar-Rabb, He is the owner of all things, and the human beings are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no similarities. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَالسَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. And even in the life of the human being, they see that clearly. If you are, if you manufacture, anything, like say you you make this member, right? Somebody made this member, right? So the one that made this member, you cannot look at the member and based on the quality of the member, then you will talk about the attribute of the one that created the member. So if the member is brown, right? So the one that made it is brown, right? It doesn't make sense. This is something that he made, right? And it's not the same as the one that made it. This is totally different, right? And again, this is something for the human beings they all agree to this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of all things. Nothing is the like of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever something is mentioned about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the misery is that when people would mix what they see with their own eyes or what they know of the creation of Allah and they want to refer it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something totally different. So the only way that we got to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from where? From the wahy, from the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's it. And once we know it, we keep it that way. We know the meaning of it, we believe in it, we don't distort the meanings of it, we don't talk about how it is, because we don't have the knowledge of it, and we stop there. So this is the same thing with the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything else. To believe in it, and to follow it, and to believe that this is the truth. Then he says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفْ تَفْسِيرَ الْحَدِيثِ وَيَبْلُغْهُ عَقْلُهُ فَقَدْ كُفِيَ ذَلِكَ وَأُحْكِمَ لَهُ فعليه الإيمان به والتسليم له مثل حديث الصادق المصدوق وما كان مثله في القدر. He's saying that if a person doesn't know the tafsir of the hadith and his intellect did not comprehend it, he had been sufficed. That means, it's valid, right? And that وأحكم له, the matter made clear for him. And he's referring here to matters of al-ghayb or unseen that is not known for us. So he has to believe in it and to submit oneself to it, like the hadith of al-sadiq al-masduq وَمَا كَانَ مِثْلَهُ فِي الْقَدَرِ, and the like of it in matters of al-qadr. Hadith al-sadiq al-masduq, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, that he said that أخبرني الصادق المصدوق, that الصادق المصدوق, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the truthful one, he informed me and he talked about the stages of the creation of the human beings, that he at first is nutfa, 40 days, and then alaqa, the like of it, then he is mudra, and then the angel will be sent to blow the soul in it and to write 4 things. His ajal, his life, how long he's going to live, his amal, his actions, and whether he is, and his rizq, and his provisions, and whether he is shaqi or sa'id, whether he is wretched or sa'id, happy, meaning that he's among the people of the hellfire or the people of the Jannah. So 4 things the angel will be ordered to write it down when the person or the human being is in the womb of his mother, when the soul is being blown into him, right? And this is before he is even out to the earth. If people use their intellect, right, that's what he means. In the wrong way, then they will talk or might deny the qadr, or how that is when he's not even on earth committed anything and he's already written whether he is from the people of Jannah or the hellfire. Just believe in it and submit yourself to it. Does that mean that we cancel our own thinking? No. Your life or the things that we see with our lives also confirm with this clearly, like the provisions and so on, as we said it before. You know that it is already written what you are going to be provided for. That's one of the 4 things, right? So we should not ignore them and think only of the Jannah and the hellfire. One of which, what is written, right, is the ajal, is the lifespan of the person. Exactly how long he's going to live. Does that mean if you see a knife flying towards you, you just stand there and say, if it's going to kill me, it's going to kill me, or you move your head away? You move your head away, right? And at the end, you believe in your heart that the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your ajal, is fixed. You cannot prolong your life even 1 second, right? And everything is by the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same thing with the provisions, with rizq. You already know that what exactly you will be provided for. You know it, it's written, it's finished. But nobody would sit and not seek provisions. Doesn't take physical means. He will become insane then. So people don't have any dispute with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to the of provisions. So why do they have a dispute in the part of the qadar that who's going to be in Jannah and who's going to be in hellfire? Deal with it the same way you deal with the provisions. You eat, you're hungry, you eat, and you feel satisfied after you eat. Right? And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. The same thing, person do the deeds of the people of Jannah, he will enter the Jannah by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Exactly the same way. But yes, you can eat and you never be satisfied because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of all things. And if you say that otherwise, that means you're denying the perfect names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this matter of belief, it's not something that it wipes totally the intellect of the human being. Actually, it confirms it with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and we see there's no contradiction. Otherwise, if people say otherwise, they're contradicting themselves. So the disbelievers, or those who deny the qadar, and so on, these are the ones that are losing their minds. They're not using the proper understanding and intelligence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. So this is what it means. Do not, if the hadith is about matters of unseen, just take it the way it is. It's unseen to us. And we take it and we submit ourselves, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, the all-knower, the most wise, and so on. And so on. And the same thing he says, وَمِثْلُ أَحَادِيثِ الرُّؤْيَا كُلُّهَا وَإِنْ نبت عن الأسماع واستوحش منها المستمع فإنما عليه الإيمان بها وألا يرد منها حرفا واحدا وغيرها من الأحاديث المأثورات عن الثقات. Also the like of this, hadith al-ru'ya. The hadith of al-ru'ya is, ru'ya means seeing. Seeing what? The ru'ya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the believers would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment. Why he mentioned this? Because some of the deviants, they denied it. Right? Like the Jahmiyyah and the Khawarij and others. They denied that the believers would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment. And even some of those who are living today, like Ibadiyya for example, those who live in Oman and so on, they deny this, that the believers would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment. So the hadith is clear, even the verses of the Quran is clear. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. On the day where faces will be nadira, from the nadara, with the goodness and so on, they will be looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muslim and others, إنكم سترون ربكم عيانا لا تضمون في رؤيته كما ترون الشمس أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, that you would see your Lord عيانا, meaning what's عيانا meaning? Like I see, for example, I see you عيانا, clearly, like I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at a picture of you, I'm not looking at an image. No, I'm seeing you, yourself. So people would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without anything, any barrier. The same way that you would see the sun, you don't have to push one another to be able to see it, because the matter of the ease of seeing it. And this is, the hadith is very clear in this, right? So those who use their own intellect, and how is that, and the creation of Allah, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِهِ عِلْمًا, they cannot encompass. Nobody said encompassing anything. It's about seeing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able of all things. And we have to believe in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So hadith al-ru'ya, you believe in it. وَإِنْ نَبَتْ عَنِ الْأَسْمَعِ. Even if it makes your, when you hear it, it makes you go, like you make it, you feel like it's a strange thing. It's a strange, how can that be? وَاسْتَوْحَشَ مِنْهَا الْمُسْتَمِعِ. And the mustami', the one that listens to it, and he has the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and exalt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he feel like, how can that be? Even if it feels this way, it doesn't matter. You have to believe in it. فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْهِ الْإِيمَانُ بِهَا. He has to believe in it. وَأَلَّا يَرُدَّ مِنْهَا حَرْفًا وَاحِدًا. And not to reject even one letter of it. وَغَيْرُهُ مِنَ الْأَحَادِيثِ الْمَأْثُورَاتِ عَنِ الثِّقَاتِ. And the like of this, the authentic hadith from the authentic thiqat, those who are trustworthy. So the hadith, if it's authentic, even if it's in matters of aqidah, we believe in it the way it is, and we submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, because you're talking about wahy, and nothing is against the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of all things. And again, it's the problem that human beings, they make their own tasawwurat, or their own perception of things based on what they see with their own eyes and what they hear with their own ears, which is so deficient and so limited. Right? Imagine, you're just seeing things. What are we seeing throughout our own life? Other human beings, actions happens, the skies that we see, just the color of it, stars, suns and everything. And then after that we make our own perception of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how things are, and how this and how that, and how ignorant is the human being. The wahy is for the people to submit themselves to it. Then he says, لا يخاصم أحد. And this is where you don't dispute with anyone with regards to this, because the matter is wahy versus and hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, opposite to opinions and likings and so on. ولا يناظره, and not even to debate with him. ولا يتعلم الجدل, and not to learn matters of arguments. فإن الكلام في القدر والرؤية والقرآن وغيرها من السنن مكروه منهي عنه ولا يكون صاحبه إن أصاب بكلامه السنة من أهل السنة حتى يدع الجدل ويسلم. He says that the kalam or the talking in matters of al-qadr and seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Quran and the like of this, matters of belief from the disliked ways, manhiyun anhu, is forbidden, and the one that would keep on arguing and debating and so on, even if his words is according to the sunnah, he is not from Ahl Sunnah till he leaves these arguments and he submits himself. So if the foundation is not the same, then what is the debate and the argument is for what? So to just mention the nusus. Once the text is mentioned, if there's no submission, that's it, it's over. What are you going to debate on what afterwards? That's what he means, right? So if a person doesn't have the nusus, doesn't have the dalil, doesn't have the evidences, yes, you have to present the evidence to him, and not to go back and forth with matters of intellect. You say Muhammadur Rasulullah, that means والسلام, that he's the final messenger of Allah. That means what? Follow what he brought to you with matters of the hadith. Of course the Quran, everybody has to submit themselves to, and also the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's really many of these arguments and so on, people are not standing on the same ground, right? If they start from the beginning, are you going to submit yourself? Are you La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, there's no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Prophet ﷺ is the final messenger of Allah. What does that mean? If they don't agree even at what does that mean, then there's no point of going further. If they agree that if the Prophet ﷺ made clear to them that the Prophet ﷺ said such and such, and they have to submit themselves to it, otherwise then there's no point of going further. Then he says, وَيُؤْمِنُ بِالْأَثَارِ, and the person of Ahl Sunnah, is it clear? يُؤْمِنُ بِالْأَثَارِ, he believes in al-athar, in the traditions, in the text. وَالْقُرْآنِ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ, and the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَيْسَ بِمَخْلُوقٍ, and it's not a creation of Allah. وَلَا تَضْعُفْ أَن تَقُولَ لَيْسَ بِمَخْلُوقٍ, and he says, do not be weak or shy or whatever to say that Al-Quran لَيْسَ بِمَخْلُوقٍ. Say the Quran is not a creation of Allah. Because sometimes you have no problem to say Quran is the words of Allah. But for you to go further, this is sometimes people feel shy. They don't want to cause problems, maybe. I don't know. If they say the Quran is not the creation of Allah. Of course, it depends on the person and the context of what he's doing and so on. At this time, this was the big fitna, where people were tested with regards to the Quran, whether it's Kalamullah or Makhluk, meaning the creation of Allah. So to say that the Quran is Kalamullah, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as it's understood, this was enough at the time of the companions radiallahu anhum. And if people start means of deviation, then the person has to be clear. So the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Kalamullahi tabaraka wa ta'ala, in its true sense, not in metaphoric meaning or something of that nature. Nothing is the like of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sifatul kalam, the attribute of al-kalam, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one of the attributes of Allah, that we believe in it, we know the meaning of it, and we do not say that it's similar to any of the attributes of the human beings, and we don't deny it, right? The how is it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And he says, فَإِنَّ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ مِنْهُ وَلَيْسَ بِبَائِنٍ مِنْهُ. The words, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from Him and not separated from Him. What does this mean? If they claim, and again this is not just something that people would bring up when some people think that why you're bringing up these things, it is being taught mainly academically to many people, those who study matters of the deen. and they come back and they spread this evil in an indirect way or directly, it doesn't matter, but this is something important for the Muslim to know. If they say that the Quran is makhluk, is creation of Allah, the creation is separated from the Creator. It's not from His attribute. Right? So the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from Him. The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَيْسَ مِنْهُ شَيْءٌ مَخْلُوق. Nothing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is makhluk, is created. Right? Because when you say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as-sami', once you say as-sami', you're not just talking about the attribute, you're talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sami' is not separated. The sam' or the hearing is not something different. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same thing. And the same thing with the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِيَّاكَ وَمُنَاظَرَةِ مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي. And be warned from debating with those who introduced in this. وَمَنْ قَالَ بِاللَّفْظِ وَغَيْرِ. And those who said the word of Allah. This is bid'ah, this is innovation in the deen. Those who would say that the Quran that you have in your hand, this Quran is the love, is my speech, is not the speech of Allah. My speech is my speech. And the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's saying what here? وَمَنْ قَالَ بِاللَّفْظِ وَغَيْرِ. And those who would say this, we say the Quran is the speech of Allah. That's it. You don't go further with this, and this is all innovations in matters of the deen. وَمَنْ وَقَفَ فِيهِ فَقَالَ لَا أَدْرِي مَخْلُوقٌ أَوْ لَيْسَ بِمَخْلُوقٍ. And the one that would stop there and would say, I do not know if it's creation or it's not creation. وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ وَلَيْسَ بِمَخْلُوقٍ. And he says, indeed, it's kalamullah and not makhluk, not creation of Allah. Right? So all of these people that they talk about these things, this is all means of deviation. A person has to stay away from this. It's enough for us to say that the Quran is the speech of Allah and it is not a creation of Allah. والإيمان بالرؤيا يوم القيامة كما روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من الأحاديث الصحيحة. And to believe in the ru'ya, that the believers would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment, as it's mentioned from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the authentic hadith. وأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد رأى ربه. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam indeed had saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأنه مأثور عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And this is authentically mentioned about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This part of the aqidah, there's differences of opinion. Right? So if someone have a dispute in this, it does not take him outside of the people of Sunnah. But the authentic opinion, yes, the Prophet ﷺ saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the night of Mi'raj, or others said that he didn't see. Like when the Prophet ﷺ himself, in the authentic hadith, he was asked, did you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the night of Mi'raj? He said, Nurun anna ara. Light, how can I see him? That means he saw light. How can I see? Meaning in this world. So some said this, and that's why he says رواه قتادة عن عكرمة عن ابن عباس ورواه الحكم بن أبان عن عكرمة عن ابن عباس ورواه علي بن زيد عن يوسف بن مهران عن ابن عباس والحديث عندنا كعلى ظاهره كما جاء عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Says والكلام فيه بدعة, and to talk about this is innovation in the deen. ولكن نؤمن به كما جاء على ظاهره ولا نناظر فيه أحدا. Says we believe in it the way it is, in its apparent words, and we do not debate with anyone about this whatsoever. And this will come inshallah. Then he says, وَالْإِيمَانُ بِالْمِيزَانِ. And to believe in al-mizan, we talked about that also before, the balance of the deeds, كَمَا جَاء, as it came, without saying that maybe this is something that means it's a non-physical thing, or that, going beyond what is mentioned in the hadith, this is definitely deviation from the truth. يوزن العبد يوم القيامة فلا يزن جناح بعوضة. That the slave of Allah will be weighed on it, and he might not even weigh the wing of a mosquito or a bug. وتوزن أعمال العباد كما جاء في الأثر. And the actions, the deeds of the people also will be weighed, as it's mentioned in the traditions. So to believe in it, والإيمان به والتصديق به والإعراض عما ضد ذلك وترك مجادلته. To believe in it, and to say that this is the truth, and to turn away from those who reject this, and not to debate with them. And this is something that you might come across, and inshallah you will come across, but especially in the Muslim world. Right? You might find this in a newspaper, an article in a newspaper. Person writing things, and he will talk about the mizan, and he say it's not really right a true mizan. It's just about the balance of the justice and justice, and you know, people read this and they keep on reading these types of things, and again it's this big deviation that was introduced into this ummah that infiltrated in many things, is using their aql, or putting their aql, their intellect, before the nas, before the text in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And always in anything they have to use their imagination or their thinking and so on, and why is this and how is this and why is that, right? And in a way that as if they are rejecting the text from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even rulings. And you would find and hear the most weird things when it comes to matters of religion. وأن الله تبارك وتعالى يكلم العباد يوم القيامة ليس بينهم وبينه ترجمان والإيمان به والتصديق به. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would speak to His slaves in the Day of Judgment, no turjuman, no translator between Him and them, to believe in this, والتصديق بها, and to believe that this is the truth. How and so on, Allah knows best. But to believe in it because it came this way, without denying it, without distorting it, without putting false principles and then apply all the deen based on these false principles. And one more point and then we stop inshallah ta'ala. He says, وَالْإِيمَانُ بِالْحَوْضِ وَأَنَّ لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم حَوْضًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. To believe in al-hawd, we talked about the hawd also, the pool that has water in it, and that the Prophet ﷺ will have a hawd in the Day of Judgment. تَرِدُ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّتُ عرضه, that his ummah will come to his hawd, to his pool to drink. عرضه, its width, مثل طوله, it's like its length, مسيرة شهر, the journey of a month. آنيته كعدد نجوم السماء, its cups is like the number of the stars in the skies. على ما صحت به الأخبار من غير وجه, as the authentic traditions has been narrated from many different sources. That means it's authentic. So this is all from the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So believing in this and with the hadith of it. Again, this is briefly, we talked about that before, with the authentic hadith that talks about how, and every mas'ala, every matters of belief like this, the belief is clear, and we have to make sure that the belief is sound, because even one's ending of one's life depends on one's sound belief that he has, and then there's also implications to this. And our life and actions and speech will depend on what we believe in our heart. So we can stop inshallah ta'ala at this point and we continue with the same اعتقاد of Imam Ahmad next time if Allah gives us life.